Donald Ray Stephenson. His birth date is December 21st, 1924. He served in the Army. His highest rank achieved was the Private First Class. Today's date is March 9th, 2012. We are in Piqua, Ohio, at the Piqua Public Library. My name is Tona Francis, and I am a friend of Donald Stephenson. The interview is being conducted for the Miami County Veteran History Project in the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. The project is sponsored by Mission Veterans to DC of Piqua, Ohio. Where and when were you born, sir?
I was born here in Piqua, Ohio, and raised in Piqua. Spent my life here, except the time in the service.
And family, parents, their occupations?
My parents, Samuel and Irma Stephenson. My father was a health officer here in Piqua.
And any siblings?
I had 6 brothers and 6 sisters. At this time, I have 1 brother and 1 sister surviving.
And what were you doing before you entered the service? Were you working somewhere?
Yes, I worked at Hartzell Propeller, tipping the old wood propeller blades, putting the brass tip and leading edge on there.
Okay, are there any other of your family members that would have served in the military? Any brothers or sisters?
I had 2 brothers that were in the service during the Korean War. My brother Jim served in Korea, and at the same time, my other brother Roger was in Japan.
Okay, and how did you enter the service? Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I volunteered for the draft. I intended to enlist, but in the process, I volunteered for a draft.
And did you choose a specific branch, or did they give you that?
They just hand it to you through aptitude tests and so forth.
And where did you sign up at then?
Where did I sign up?
Yes.
Actually, it was at the draft board over here. I mean, Mr. Brush was in charge of the draft board, I remember, and I went there with the intentions of listing, but he said, well, you can just volunteer for a draft.
Okay.
That took somebody else off that list that he had to call.
Okay. And did you didn't determine that you wanted to go in the Army or anything like that? They just told you?
They just told you.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And when did you depart for training camp?
You say when?
Uh-huh.
I believe it was February 19th, 1943. We left Baltimore, Ohio Railroad out here to railroad station. I think there was probably a group of about 70 men boarded the train, went to Fort Thomas, Kentucky.
And how was training? Was that hard, your training?
Not really, no. It was part of the Army. You learned to be a soldier, and it wasn't bad, no.
And how long were you there, you think? A few weeks, months?
At Fort Thomas,
Mm-hmm.
just a few days. Aptitude tests, give your uniform, taught you what your left and right foot, and just the basics, and trying to find out where you're going to go from here. So, of course, from Fort Thomas, they split us up. Everybody, we went all over the country for different training according to what they decide to put you there.
Okay, so where did you go next then?
Well, fortunately, I went to Florida and enjoyed the nice weather down there. being the winter time, and I did basic training there at Florida.
Okay.
And during the basic training, of course, there's more aptitude tests, and I was pleased. I was sent to Gulfport Field, Mississippi, and underwent aircraft mechanic school. A very good school, and I enjoyed that, appreciated it. And from there, I went to San Diego, California, at Consolidated Aircraft, and we got very familiar with the 4-engine B-24 bombers. Yeah, a very good airplane, and I still think it was one of the good ones in World War II. Yeah.
So did you fix many there, or you just learned to fix them there?
We learned the airplane, and then the next assignment, of course, you go here and there. I was in Salt Lake City, I forget it, but I ended up at Pueblo Air Base, Pueblo, Colorado, and we had B-24s there. I think around 80 B-24s, and the cadets just got their wings. This is their first experience flying 4-engine aircraft.
Okay.
And it was interesting, yeah.
Did you fix quite a few of them there, or they just practiced there?
We maintained those aircraft, yeah. Actually, I was on a crew of 3 of us with changing engines on the B-24s. They kept their logbooks on the engines, and they changed them at certain hourly, put a reconditioned engine in there, yeah.
So they worked so many hours, and then you had to change them out?
Right.
Okay.
We changed the engines, yeah.
Okay, how long were you there? Very long?
No, not too long. They requested that 3 of us out of that hangar volunteered for overseas duty. So 2 of my buddies and I decided to volunteer for overseas duty, expecting to go to Europe. Yeah, well, we ended up in Panama.
Oh my.
And it was an experience. I'll tell you, going to Panama, I might talk about the convoy going to Panama. You know, there was a lot of German subs in the Caribbean and Gulf of Mexico, and we was in a convoy all the time, but on an old Liberty ship where the facilities just weren't all that great, you know. No fresh water, only what you drink. And it took us 18 days to get to Panama from New Orleans.
Wow.
And with several days we spent in Guantanamo Bay doing some repair on that old Liberty ship.
So you were fixed aircraft, but you had to fix the boat.
We didn't fix it. We just sat there in the harbor. Never got off the boat in Cuba. We were just sitting there in the harbor for several days while they repaired the old ship.
Oh, you pulled in to have it fixed. Okay.
Yeah, pulled in there and had it repaired. Finally got to Panama, and that was, I wasn't too happy being in Panama, frankly, but I was there, and it was an experience. They had 3 air bases in Panama and in the Isthmus, and I was at France Field. That's where I spent my time. They had Albrook, Howard, and France Field. The Panama was bristling with anti-aircraft. They were well protected, but our aircraft, we had no bombers, and that's what I trained to work on.
Oh my.
All we had was old P-39s. It was aircraft that they didn't even want over there in the war zones.
So what did you do? Did you fix anything?
Yeah, we worked on the aircraft and serviced them, yeah, and this, that, and the other, but it just wasn't my cup of tea, I believe.
I understand.
So, Well, come along the Belgian Bulge, they decided we don't need as many people in the Air Force, Army Air Force, which I was. So they decided we'll pull a bunch of us out, put us in the infantry. So back to the States for some infantry training, and ended up there in Camp Livingston in Alexandria, Louisiana, and got some infantry training. And supposedly we were going to go to Europe, go to Fort Meade, Maryland for assignment. And we sat there several days. Well, next thing you know, you never know where you're going. You go where you're told. You get on a train and you don't know where the train's going. But it ended up in Fort Lawton, Seattle, Washington, and I was sent to Saipan in the South Pacific.
Oh my.
And that was an experience in itself. Yeah, so Saipan was pretty secure by the time I got there. And they were flying B-29s out of Saipan and also Tinian. There were some Japanese soldiers still up here in the hills. You know, the island was just 12 miles long and 5 miles wide, so
not very big.
The Japs pretty well stayed in the hills and didn't bother us, so they left them alone.
Okay.
And they flying the B-29s out every day, bombing Japan. And they had Okinawa and Iwo Jima. They finally got those islands where they could set up an air base, and flying 29s from the Marianas to Japan and back, they had to have some good weather or they couldn't make it all the way, you know.
Okay.
They ended up dropping bombs in the water and flying back home.
Because they were too heavy.
But they got to Okinawa and Iwo Jima, they were able to refuel and made it a lot easier for the bombers. But in the process, they established a little secret group there on Tinian. So happened they were preparing to use the atomic bomb. Of course, we heard that they had a weapon that was really super, and they warned Japan that we had the weapon and we would use it if we had to, and we gave them the chance to surrender, which they of course didn't, and they did drop the bomb. It's possible that I might have seen the Enola Gay that carried the atomic bomb to bomb Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I saw the 29s flying all the time, and you didn't think too much about it. Finally, when Japan decided to surrender unconditionally, immediately they had B-29s flying out with big black letters painted on the side, PW supplies, and they were flying medicine and food and dropping it into the where they knew there was prisoners camps, so they dropped supplies into them. And finally Japan surrendered. Of course, I went to work processing the fellows to come home, and they had a point system. The ones that were over there and all the Purple Hearts and so forth, that was more points and the time, and of course they went home first. And when I got where I had enough points to go home, I processed myself to come home.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Did they come home by ship or by plane?
Ship, yeah. We didn't have aircraft to carry troops like we do today, yeah. It was all ship, yeah.
What did you do in your spare time when you were in Saipan? Did you have any spare time, or were you busy the whole time?
Well, not always busy, no. I have roamed around the hills there a little bit. It's kind of tough to see. You see some of the remains from the war. Yeah, and
that would be hard.
yeah.
But I didn't know if you made friends or did certain things at certain days, or.
Well, actually, after Japan surrendered, it was like going to work every day, going up there to the building. And one day, a few days before Christmas in 1945, I went to work that morning, and I noticed that the old dirt road ran out beyond the building there, and it ran out along a bluff, and there was nobody out there. And I glanced up the road, and I saw a group of men out there on the road, and I thought, well, what are they doing out there this early in the morning? There was no purpose for them to be there. And I didn't say anything, but later on I glanced, and they were coming toward us. And then I noticed finally that one of them was carrying a white flag out in the front. So I realized some Japs wanted to come in and surrender, which they did. I thought maybe they were getting hungry and maybe they was going to have Christmas dinner.
There you go.
Well, they came right down there, and we just went out and met them. They seemed to be frightened, really, but they got an interpreter up there pretty quick, and they had these Japanese soldiers had their dress uniforms on, and they were pretty warm. And the officer told the interpreter, tell them if they want, they can sit down. They never sat down. They squatted, and they squatted there for 45 minutes before at least 45 minutes. I couldn't have done it, but their physical differences made them be able to do that. But they put them on a truck and took them down to a stockade. Yeah, but that's my only experience with capturing some Japs.
Oh my!
Yeah, but really they were when the Japan surrendered, they took vehicles up here and announced. Sometimes they'd speak in English and they spoke in Japanese, and they told them that if they would, the war was over, and they would come down and surrender, they would be treated kindly and given food, clothing, and shelter, and so forth. And I'm sure if they would surrender, but none of them came down at that time. And so they just let them alone. One time they did sabotage one of our water lines or something, and they sent a patrol up there, and they killed a Japanese. One, yeah.
So they didn't try to steal from you? Did they ever try to steal from?
I often wondered how they survived. We had a group of civilians, I think they call them Chamorros. They kept them in like a stockade at night. In the daytime, those Chamorros would go out to their little farm fields. They took a cow and their family, and they went out there, and they had a little tin shelter where they could have their meals. Mm-hmm. I think they milked the cow and also hooked her to a plow, and that's the way they provided their own food a whole lot. And
what kind of food did they have? Do you know? Was it rice or?
No, it wasn't rice. No, the island of Saipan was their main product was sugar cane, and these people were almost like slaves to the Japanese, the way I was told. They worked the cane fields, and they had a refinery there that's all that they had on Saipan, and that was their living. But I don't know what kind of vegetables these Chamorros were raising. I never got into it that way, but I would see them in the field. There was a level place down there, looked like actually the island was a coral island, but there was some soil down there and they could raise a crop apparently. So that was kind of interesting, yeah. But yeah, well, where do we go from here then?
Well, anything else? You got home on a ship. Did you come through Hawaii, or how did you come home?
Going to Saipan, yeah, that was an experience. We left out of Seattle, went out through Puget Sound, and it got pretty cold, and that was like June, I believe. But as we, of course, go on down south, it got warmer, and we was on a ship that we had a good water supply, thankfully. We could shower every day if we wanted to, but they did tell us if we didn't conserve water somewhat, we'd have to ration it. So, but we did very well, and we stopped in Pearl Harbor, and we had trouble with the engine on that ship. So we had to repair that, and we went on, and actually the ship had two engines. We got in with one engine very slowly. We stopped at Eniwetok, I think in the Marshall Island, just a little island that was barely above sea level. And we did, while they was working on the ship, they did, we had a little, kind of a landing craft. They took us in the island. Now, you don't drink beer on the ship, but they did give us a can of beer when we got on the island. Everybody had a can of beer if you wanted it. And just got us off the ship for a little while and then back on. Finally, we finished the trip to Saipan.
Was this ship bigger than the one that you took to Panama, or the same size?
Well, the ship going to Panama was an old Liberty ship. I think it was like mass-produced with a Kaiser shipyard, you know, and they were just slapped together, and it wasn't much of a ship, really.
Okay, so it wasn't like a destroyer or one of these big...
And that convoy to Panama, it was kind of interesting. We was always in a convoy, and...
how many boats, so many, or how many ships?
It varied. Some of it, they'd be coming and going, and we had escorts. We had, they call them DEs, destroyer escorts. They were small, and they were fast, and we had one on each side of the convoy, and one in front and one in back. And I remember apparently one of the crews on the DE became ill, and they brought him aboard our ship, and they pulled him up alongside. Never stopped. Of course, our ship was very slow. The Liberty ships were slow. And they pulled up along the side and got this man aboard our ship where he could get some medical help. And as he pulled away, it was like a speedboat. Just left us in the dust, you know.
Huh.
So it was... they had, sometimes we'd have a flying boat fly over our convoy and circle for quite a while as protection. And they had one time it was a blimp flying over us, and they had depth charges, I'm sure, aboard, you know.
So how many ships do you think were with you?
Oh, I'd say sometimes it was 20.
Wow.
Yeah.
And all full of men?
No, different ships. I suppose a lot of them were supplies and so forth. No, it wasn't all troop ships. There was some LSTs. That was a landing ship tank, and it was a very shallow draft boat ship. And we got in rough weather, I remember looking at the LSTs, it'd roll clear over and look like the mast was going to touch the water in the next wave, and then it'd roll the other way. And I talked to the fellows that was on that LST, and they said they had ropes along. The only way they could walk is hang onto a rope, because it was terrible. But our ship was riding pretty good. The old Liberty ship was handling it very well. There was some of it got seasick, but not too many.
So you didn't have too bad of weather. You did have bad weather from Washington to Hawaii to Saipan.
Nothing real bad, no.
That's good.
I do remember one night that we were sleeping 5 bunks high, and I was about the 3rd bunk up, and the ship would, I'd hear a boom during the night, and then the ship would just vibrate. And after that happened about 3 times, I went up on deck, just the middle of the night, and I stood there up to the bow, and that's where we were. And I was in the hold up near the bow, and the ship would, the bow would go up. Each time, each wave would go a little higher, and finally it'd get high enough the bow would come out of the water, and then it would boom and go back down. The water would fly up and come up on deck, you know. But
and that's what you heard.
That's what I was hearing. So I was, but everything was okay. Yeah. I think the Pacific, they wasn't too worried about submarines. We weren't in a convoy, but we had the ship we were on was very well armed. It had all kind of, it had, I think, some 5-inch cannons. It had 40-millimeter anti-aircraft, and it had guns all over the place. It was well armed. Yeah. So we was protected. It was a nice ship.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Just a little engine trouble.
Yeah. And coming home, we rode on when the war was over, left Saipan. I remember standing on the stern of the ship and looking back at the island as it gladly, slowly disappeared on the horizon, and I thought, well, that's the last I'll see of that little island. My daughter wanted to provide a trip for me to go back to Saipan, and I didn't. I said, no, I don't think so. But it would have been interesting, I suppose, to go back there. But
yeah, see how it would change.
I guess it's a resort for the Japanese now, like Hawaii is to us.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
So that's what I was told.
So then, when you came back from the service, where were you at?
When I came back, I landed in San Pedro, California, and they took us from there to a camp out there in the desert. It wasn't far from San Pedro, and I never did know the name, didn't really care. I was going home.
And what did you do there?
We just there a few days, and then they got us on came on a train to Camp Atterbury, Indiana, and that's where I got my discharge, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't take a bus home or a plane, it was a train?
Yeah, a train. Going around across the country, I traveled a lot, really, in the United States. And,
yes, you did.
A lot of times it was I was on my own. Like when I left San Diego, I was on my own. Came back. I had a delay en route. They didn't call it a furlough. But I got to spend a few days at home, and then I had to report back to, I believe, Salt Lake City. That's where I was.
Wow.
When I left that, and just there for reassignment. That's when I went to Pueblo Air Base. Yeah.
Okay.
And it was that way. A lot of times I was traveling by myself on my own, you know.
Oh, okay.
And like the trip from Fort Meade to Seattle, that was on a troop train. and that was 5 days on a, and you don't go Pullman either. You're in a coach for 5 days, but it's amazing what fellows can do when they're young. I could lay down on the ground and sleep 8 hours, no problem. Now I can't sleep 8 hours in a good bed.
Oh no. Well, did you have any friendships that you formed, or sometimes you, like you said, you were with 3 gentlemen when you learned your?
Yeah, when we left Pueblo, 2 of my buddies were pretty close, and that was the group we decided to volunteer for overseas duty. Ended up in Panama. I did stay in touch with one of the fellows, Fred Prevenslick from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. But Fred, he moved to Alexandria, Virginia, just across the river from Washington D.C. He did work for an airline, used his training from the mechanic school, and I did visit with Fred one time after the war, and I contacted him occasionally. And
now, did he go to Saipan at all with you, or he was just the one that went to Panama?
He stayed in Panama.
Okay.
As far as I know, Fred spent the rest of the wartime in Panama. And the other fellow, I lost contact with him.
Well, you were so many places, I can't imagine how it would be easy to keep up with other people.
Yeah, I think about it many times. I move into a barracks and everybody in there was a stranger to me.
You don't have time to get to know them.
Yeah, and well, you get acquainted for a while and then you're gone.
Yeah, they send you someplace different.
You just do what you're told.
How did you keep in touch with any family while you were in your service years? Did you get letters from home?
Oh yeah. Mail call was a big event of the day when you could get mail call. Of course, on a ship you don't have mail call, and
you were so many places. Did it have to catch up to you?
Yeah. Mail was really slow. Yeah, so. We didn't have the service we have today in the mail service, but it was okay,
But you did receive letters, so that's good.
Yeah, and I'd write a letter occasionally, and my mother kept every letter I wrote, and
that's nice.
I still have that in my possession.
That is nice.
Yeah.
And did you have a girlfriend back home?
Yes, the girl that I dated in December 7th, 41, I married about 7 years later. Yeah.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah.
And did she write to you?
Yeah, I'd get letters from her, and I'd write to her, and write my folks. Yeah.
Did you have any recreation or off-duty pursuits? Did you go to what is it?
No.
They provided a dance hall for you. I'm trying to think what that was called.
You're thinking of the USO.
Yes.
Yeah. Not very often, really. It's pretty much on your own. Of course, the GI, the soldiers, they go to town. Of course, I'd go to town and look around, but nothing great, really.
Just to pass the time.
Yeah, just to get away from the camp, but it wasn't too often, And,
I think they kept you pretty busy.
Yeah, they did.
Okay. When you got home from the service, was your family there to meet you, or the community?
When I got home, I came back on my own, left Camp Atterbury. They didn't know exactly when I was going. I just come in on more or less surprise them.
Okay.
They knew I was coming home, but they didn't know exactly when.
I see.
And
so it wasn't like a bunch of the men came home together. different
Yeah.
ones came home by themselves.
Yeah.
I see.
It turned us loose at Camp Atterbury and you was on your own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You got your
Yeah.
paycheck, and however you got home, you got home.
Yeah.
I see.
You're on your own. Yeah.
Was it hard to readjust to civilian life after that?
Not for me. No, it wasn't. No.
And where did you go when you came home? Did you go back to Hartsville's, or did you go somewhere else?
I worked for Aranca Aircraft, hoping I could follow through with the aircraft work, but it wasn't too available, and they thought everybody was going to have an airplane, and Aranca was building some airplanes, and they leased some hangars there in Vandalia,
Okay.
and we made a little Aranca Chief two-place airplane, and that didn't last too long.
Okay.
They saturated the market with the little airplanes, so I did go back and work for Hartsville's for a while, but I ended up went to work for Aero Products General Motors at Vandalia, and I stayed with General Motors then the rest of my working career.
Okay, so you retired, huh?
Yeah.
And how long did you work there then?
Over 32 years I worked for GM.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Mm-hmm.
And in the aerospace department?
Well, when I went to work there, Aero Products was aircraft propellers, and it was a nice work, very precision, and I really enjoyed the work there. They, let's see, Allison took that over and moved it over to Indianapolis, and I could have gone to Indianapolis, and I decided not to, so I go out and hunt for a job and went to work for Delco Marine, which is another division. The automotive, that was brakes. They made automotive brakes there.
Okay.
That's where I spent the rest of my working career with
Okay.
GM. Yeah.
Did you have any children?
Yes, I have 3 children, Mark, Reva, and Craig. Yeah. Mark passed away September, a year and a half ago, I guess. So, my son Craig lives here in Piqua. He just moved here. He brought his family, moved back to Piqua after 30-some years in Arizona, and he decided to come back home.
Okay.
And I'm glad of that. My daughter has stayed in Piqua, and she married Bill Holtboat, and he has a business here in Piqua. And Craig's established, and his wife, Crystal, and 2 children are with him. They're in high school, so
I wondered
I'm
if you had
pleased to have them
grandchildren.
with us.
So you have 2 grandchildren, or?
Yeah, I have 4 grandchildren.
Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
Craig and Crystal have a boy and a girl, and my daughter and son-in-law Bill had 2 sons. My 2 oldest grandsons are married and working, and Craig and Crystal's son and daughter, they're in high school, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that keeps you active then.
Yeah, try to.
Do you think you have any lessons you learned from the military service?
Oh, yeah, I've learned a lot. I learned a lot there, and I appreciate my time in the service, really. I can't name anything specifically as far as learning them, but you learn discipline. I learned it the hard way. I had to dig stumps a few nights because I didn't behave.
Oh no.
Yeah, I didn't respect an officer like I should have.
And you had to dig stumps. Where was
Oh
this
yeah,
at?
that was Mississippi there. Yeah.
Oh wow. All by yourself with a shovel?
Yeah. That was an experience too.
I'm sure it was.
I didn't mind. After hours, go out and dig the stump, you know. And the officer told me I have to support my non-commissioned officers, so I understood that. And I dug a stump. I dug a hole around the stump big enough to bury a Jeep, but I was going to take that stump, roots and all. And he came out and told me, I have another stump over here in the pathway, and maybe dig that one out too. So I dug another hole around that. Both of those stumps are still there, but I chopped the top off of them and filled the hole up.
Well, good.
When he told me you can quit. You know.
So you had two that you had to do.
I didn't mind it too bad.
That's good.
And a couple other non-commissioned officers come over and said, Don, if you want a weekend pass, let me know. I'll fix you up.
Well, good. I was going to say, I would think you've learned lots of lessons having 6 brothers and sisters too.
Sure.
You learned some discipline right there at home, I'm sure.
Yeah, we had to get along.
That's right.
Look after one another.
That's right.
Yeah. I'm still looking after a sister, really. That's physically handicapped, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. How did you meet your wife?
Well, I've been married 3 times.
Okay.
I lost 2 wives to cancer.
Oh, my.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my.
My first wife, I delivered groceries to her house. And that's the way
You
I
met
got
her.
to know her.
Okay.
I was a kid that delivered groceries there. And she passed away. I remarried. And that lady, I married through somebody else introduced me to her. And she had lost her husband to cancer. And we were married. And she also had cancer. And presently married to Lois. Her husband died with cancer also.
Why?
And
Cancer is not a good thing, that's for sure.
No,
They need to
right.
find cures.
And Lois and I are still kicking it around a little bit, so
Well, good.
fortunately.
Good.
Yeah. And I met Lois through hospice. She was a volunteer for hospice. She also volunteered to deliver Meals on Wheels, and my elder sister and her husband had Meals on Wheels, and Lois delivered the meals there. And my sister kind of encouraged this thing.
I see.
And after Lois and I were married, I told my sister Nina, I said, Nina, if this doesn't work out, you're in a heap of trouble.
Oh, no. And it's worked out well, it sounds
Yeah,
like. Well, that's
certainly has.
great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I want to thank you for your service, and I want to thank you for sharing your stories with us, and I want you to have a good day.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.